Welcome to the Impact Lounge. Feel the sound. Legends in the ring making moves all around. We got the fire, the heart, the stories untold. This is our moment. Watch the magic unfold. Welcome to the Impact Lounge, where we reign. Kings and queens of the ring breaking chains. We taking wrestling to a whole new height. Under bright lights, we ignite the fight. Genesis to rebellion. The crowd still chanting.
What's up, boys and girls? I guess the good news is I'm not podcasting on a Tuesday night again. I'm dropping this on you guys on a Tuesday morning. This is your Impact Lounge Impact Wrestling review for February 13, 2025. We're not going to bullshit too much. We're going to jump right into this since the podcast is coming out a little later than normal. They're working me to the bone, folks. I'm doing my best not to drop these on you so late, but that's the name of the game sometimes. That is the name of the game. So thank you if you're a loyal listener, loyal subscriber. Thank you very, very much. All the newcomers, welcome. I am your boy, BQ. So we're going to get into this episode of Impact.
TNA Impact. Oh.
So this is the part of the show, for as long as I can remember, where I point out that there's these slow motion highlights for what feels like an eternity and Tom Hannafin yelling at you. The slow motion was shorter than normal this time around. Are they listening to BQ? Stay tuned. We're going to talk about it a little bit more later. Much shorter than normal. Yo, and I know that I'm a nitpicking motherfucker. I know that I point out these like minute details in the show and the production and just whatever things that don't even cross the mind of the average person. It's the way I'm wired, but you can't just, I just feel like you cannot disagree with me that the show doesn't benefit from kind of getting to the action a little quicker than they typically do. There's been shows in the past, because I've timed it, where the action in the ring, and there's not even a promo in the beginning, where the action in the ring did not start until a good 8 minutes into the show. This was more in the We Own the Night days, because that was a little bit of a longer song. The highlights were even longer, so I think the show benefits from just like, give us, if you insist on kicking it off with some kind of recap of last week, make sure it's like relevant to what's happening in the opening segment, and then wait for later in the show to show your other recaps, so that's what they did here. Finally, another thing that I've been asking for and frankly begging for. Let's get into the World Championship match that kicked off the show to this thing. And this was the challenger was Naked Jake.
Do you mind if I slip into something more comfortable?
And of course, the TNA World Champion, Joe Hendry.
Believe that.
So that a main event, or a World Championship match, I should say, means absolutely nothing when it's one of two things. Number one, it kicks off the show. It is not the actual main event of the program. It is the first match of the show. And number two, when they assign the goof ref to be the official.
You one of those challenge kids?
The doctor said I could be on the spectrum.
I don't know what that is, but get off it pronto.
And for the first time, remember old nitpicking Nancy over here. For the first time, they announced Jake something and gave us his weight and where he's from. And his entrance wasn't just, it's Jake something, or this is Jake something, or whatever the hell they do, to where he just never, ever, ever feels special. And he just feels like a dude that wrestles. Now, because it's a world title match, they were kind of forced to do it, right? 262 pounds. He hails from wherever buttfuck Michigan that he's from. I mean, that's like, okay, this is probably his last match in the company too. He's probably done. He's hurt. We know this for sure, that he is hurt. I think it's probably his last match also. But this was not the headliner of the show. It was the world title main event. And typically when that happens, it's something for you to take a mental note of. When a show kicks off with the world title, number one, it means nothing, as I said. But number two, it's more about furthering an angle after the match. So it's telling you, we're going to give you this match. It might run 8, 9, 10 minutes. We're wasting your time because it means nothing. But what we're trying to do is get to the end of the match so that we can further some kind of storyline, some kind of angle. If you are a fan of a good wrestling match, then you probably enjoyed this. And I'm not saying that I don't like good wrestling. You know, of course, I would prefer. I'm not really big on the whole open challenge fighting champion thing. I've pointed that out before. I understand that sometimes it needs to happen, especially in this particular case with Joe, because we just need him to defend the title. Or at least that's how they feel. I'm not one of those people. I don't want to see just as many world title matches or title defenses in general as possible. That's just not, it's not the way I like to enjoy a championship run. I think when they defend the title, it should always mean something. I don't think they should just, hey, I will fight anyone, anywhere, any place, and then some jabron shows up and says, well, I want my title shot. You know what I mean? I don't have any interest in that because I know what the outcome is going to be at all times. Like I like for the title matches to actually matter, to actually mean something. It's whatever. As I said, if you were a fan of good wrestling, then you like this match. Mainly because Jake was in it, because Joe Hendry doesn't really put on good matches if we're just being real with ourselves. This match was boring. I thought, you know, again, maybe you like it because you thought it was a good wrestling match. For me, it was very boring. I wanted it to be over. Hannafin was trying his hardest to put this thing over like it meant something. He was trying his damnedest. They kicked off the show with this shit, and he was all in it, all in that booty hole. Okay, he even several times was like, he's picking up the 262 pounder. Do you see how that helps the story of the match a little bit? If you know, like in the past, if they could have just pointed out what this guy weighs, you know, but they did it one time, so Hannafin made sure to beat it to death. So anyway, the match finished obviously with Joe Hendry winning this thing. After this, we get Ryan Nemeth.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
And he's cutting the My Brother promo, which we've pointed this out before. It's not natural into the flow of his promos. He's just yelling, my brother. It's going to get to the point that he's just saying my brother, even though it has absolutely nothing to do with what he's saying. That is the direction we're going, because he is truly beating it to death. So just moving right along here. They're kind of like doing a little post-match beatdown thing, because that's what they do. Jake got up and he started attacking Joe Hendry. Nick Nemeth comes down.
I've been talking to people walking here. We've been talking about next year, and I'm sitting there saying, I'm not going to be here.
And within seconds, the man who is always in the right place at the right time, fucking Santino.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
And Santino runs down, and he's trying to break this thing up. He inadvertently catches a super kick from Nick Nemeth. So we knew that Nick was, where's he wrestling? Qatar, Saudi Arabia, something like that. I don't remember exactly where he's going to be overseas. So they had to write him off TV for a little bit. And I think this needs to, you guys got to look at a situation like this, because I get it a lot when someone is potentially leaving TNA and I say that, you know, they're going to go get paid. They're going to go get paid by AEW. They're going to go get paid by WWE. And what people always end up telling me is Anthem has money. Yes, they do. But a report came out earlier in the week that the starting WWE base salary right now is like $200,000. All right, it's like the starting salary. And the speculation is that the starting salary for AEW is in the 100,000s, 150,000s, and that's for the like Sky Blues and that kind of bullshit. You know what I mean? Not someone who's like actually on TV wrestling and contributing to the show. You know? So these are starting salaries. That is like the top 200, 250. That's like the top in TNA. All right. So even if you're paying Nick Nemeth that, say you're paying him the absolute max that you can pay him, and this is for a lot less work. That is the difference. They're not showing up 4 days, 5 days out of the month and wrestling. They're showing up. In Nick Nemeth's case, he shows up like once. All right. Best case scenario, they show up twice. You know, they might do 1 day of taping and then the TNA Plus show. All right. So it's for a lot less work. And they don't necessarily wrestle it every week. So a guy like Nick Nemeth, let's just say he's maxed out. Like he makes the top dollar for TNA. He's still making like a minimum contract that he would in WWE. So with that said, he's still going to take these dates. He is not going to commit to, I'm going to be there for every single freaking taping. I've pointed this out many times. Nick Nemeth clearly shows up for 1 day a month for TNA. Obviously, if he wrestles a TNA Plus show, that's a little bit different. But when you're talking about the actual tapings, this motherfucker does not show up for both. He doesn't go there, spend the night, and show for the next day of taping. He just doesn't. I don't believe that the Hardys do either. All right, so he's going to take these bookings, folks. Whether it's a autograph signing, whether it's a some kind of appearance, whether it is wrestling somewhere on the indies, he's going to take the dates. So when you're sitting here and saying, well, he should be committed to TNA 24/7, yes, and I understand TNA has booking priority, but when you have a guy who was making millions before and now he's making a fraction of that, like he's going to take these dates. I hate to break it to you guys. So at the end of this angle, the first thing I said to myself was, oh my God, we're getting Nick Nemeth versus Joe Hendry again. And they're going to drag it out, which is fine. You know, they're not just throwing Nick Nemeth at him the minute after he lost the title, because they do that a lot of time in championship matches where the champion or the challenger has months to prepare for an opponent. And then he gets his rematch clause thrown at him, or they throw the rematch clause at us a week later. And the champion, Moose is the one who pointed this out on screen one time, where he said, I only had a week to prepare for this match. Josh Alexander had half a year. So it's okay dragging things out a little bit. I'm okay with that, but oh my God, do I not want to watch that match again? Because the first two were not good. They weren't even a little bit good. Nick Nemeth, I'm going to steal the show like I do every night. He hasn't stole a show once in TNA. Not one single time. I think maybe, I can't speak for when he wrestled Josh Alexander, because I already told you, your boy's not watching a 30-minute, 60-minute wrestling match. Like, that's not happening. So maybe in that case, he stole the show, but this dude has not. And him versus Joe Hendry both times has been very, very bad. They let us know after this that Unbreakable will be in Las Vegas. And it didn't even cross my mind that they would run a show out here during Mania month or Mania week, whatever it is. Didn't even cross my mind that TNA would do that. So I'm excited for that. I will definitely go to that at the Cox Pavilion. It is not too far from me. I've never been to the venue. My wife has. My wife and my daughter went to Maroon 5 concert there last year. So she was saying it is a smaller venue, but that every seat in the place is very, very good. So I haven't been in there, but it's pretty close to me. So I will definitely go check out Unbreakable, and it saves me from having to drive 4 hours to Los Angeles for Rebellion. Rebellion's like close enough where it's kind of like, oh, I probably should go, but I don't really want to drive to LA for it. So now I feel like I've done my duty if I go to Unbreakable, and I don't feel the need to have to drive out for Rebellion, because I let you guys know I was going to be in Indianapolis that weekend anyway. So it would have been, touching down from Indy and then pretty much having to drive immediately, and I wasn't really looking forward to doing that. So good stuff. Good stuff. Unbreakable. Looking forward to it very much. And then it shows Santino in the back with an ice pack. And Nick Nemeth comes with a half apology because he probably wants to be suspended. Because it was basically Santino let him know, we go back, you're suspended 4 weeks without pay. Because we knew we had to write him off TV. And he's just kind of like, I'm sorry. Like, he couldn't get out of there quick enough when Santino told him he was suspended. He's like, oh no, you mean I don't have to show up here again? And then I thought Ryan was a funny little touch when he said, I still get paid, right? So my brother has been suspended for a little bit. Then in the ring, we get the personal concierge.
That's my dad. But don't worry, he's cool.
Really? He doesn't look cool.
And he is announcing Ash by Elegance, future queen of the nipple slip.
Hey, man, I really appreciate that, Patrick.
That is Matt Raywall's soundbite. Future queen of the nipple slip, Ash by Elegance.
Come on, Teddy. Come on, Teddy.
And her tag team partner, Heather Reckless.
He has an erection.
Yeah. It's all her fault.
So they're in action here, and they're taking on the King Bees. And he did name drop this. This is the second time he's name dropped NWA. So just, I would keep an eye on that. The King Bees are the former NWA Women's Tag Team Champions. I know they don't look like stars. I don't think they look like jabrones by any means, but I know that they don't look like stars. As a matter of fact, when they won the titles, I thought it was an enhancement match. I was watching this match. It was their debut match. For some reason, they got a world tag team title shot. I was pretty upset at the time because they were wrestling pretty empowered, which were the longtime champions, and they were one of the better, if not the best, act going on the show in NWA. So they dropped the titles to the King Bees, and they had a rematch later. And I said, okay, well, Pretty Empowered's going to get them back in a rematch, and King Bees won that too. So reason I'm pointing that out is because I know that they maybe look a little bit like enhancement talents, but they're pretty good. Pretty good in the ring. And good old TNA brought them in as jobbers. They got some offense in. But they had, the jobbers standing in the ring entrance. I do believe they're from that area. I could be wrong. Typically, you bring someone in TNA for an enhancement match, they're from the area. That's just how it works. It's kind of why they brought Jazz over. I think they wrestle for Jazz at her NWA territory. I think that's what it is. So I don't know if they are currently working with the NWA, if they're like currently on the roster. I have no idea. But they still work for the territory, one of their territory systems. I'm pretty sure they work for Jazz. But long story short, they're better than Ash and Heather are as a tag team. If this would have been a competitive match, you guys would have seen that. But of course, that's not how it was laid out. We need to get Ash and Heather by Elegance a win. And they do. They do get the victory. And then they're getting ready to do their post-match beatdown / makeover. And guess who comes out looking like Raggedy Ann and Charizard? It is Spitfire.
Tell me right now that I'm just a job. Tell me to my face.
You're just a job.
And I point this out from week to week. These two teams are going to keep fighting, wrestling, something until Ash and Heather win the titles. This is the worst feud in the history of the Knockouts tag team division. And we've had some matches over the years just thrown together and whatever. Like, this is the one long-term story that they're doing, but it is so bad because the reason it's bad is because most of it is unnecessary. And any fan who has a brain knows that Heather and Ash are going to win the titles because all you have to do in this division is put together a team and you're going to be the champions. That's just historically how it is. And it's kind of like, what is taking us so long to get there with a team that would actually probably be good champions? They'd probably be like entertaining champions. it wouldn't expose the division as much because they can do a lot of segments that don't involve them actually having to wrestle. Like Edge and Christian for men were very famous for that for a long time. Were longtime tag team champions. They were always trying to avoid wrestling, but they did a lot of entertaining stuff where it wasn't like Josh Alexander's the champion and he has no gimmick, so he has to fucking wrestle matches. Like Ash and Heather won't have to do that necessarily. So they kind of need that for the division since there's no teams. There's never teams. But it's really not teams now. So the best thing to do is for them to be the champions and just walk around cutting promos and doing this and this. But it's taking us forever to get there. And I don't know if it's because they're trying to like build Spitfire up in some way, but I mean, God, this is just so bad. Then they show a highlight of last week. Not at the beginning of the show. Not with Pirate Tom yelling. They show it because it's relevant to the next segment. And they're showing Moose in the ring. I thought Moose was wrestling Crazy Steve for a second. I forgot they had the face paint. But it is showing the previous week where Leon Slater and the Hardys defeated the system. So then it's got Leon Slater on his phone in front of bright lights.
Hey here, I'm in charge.
Do you feel in charge?
And up comes Matt Hardy.
Wonderful!
And Jeff Hardy.
My name is Jeff.
So here is my thoughts regarding the 6-way tag last week. I know that they're trying to get Jeff Hardy and Moose into an X Division Championship match. Clearly, that's where they're going with it. You know what? Let me dial back on that. We're going to wait until the JDC segment a little bit later in the show so I can really get my point across. I think it'll be more relevant if we get if we wait to that point. But anyway, Matt walks up and he's putting this kid over, and that's kind of the premise of what I'm going to get to a little bit later, getting Leon Slater over. And I said this last week. I'm going to say it again. Leon Slater can talk. He is a good promo. He is natural. And these are the kind of wrestlers that TNA needs to find. These are the diamond in the roughs. I get the question a lot. What wrestlers would you want TNA to bring in from the indies? And I usually rattle off female names because there's a lot of female names out there who are available. That's really not the case with the men because AEW has kind of dried up the indies. So there are some people out there. I'm just not aware of them because they're not doing anything to really get noticed. Like, you're more likely to pull John Skyler off the indies than the next Leon Slater. That's what it is right now. But they did get Leon Slater. And I know he's from the UK. But those are the kind of signings that they need to get more of. These guys where you can just see them having a real future and they're just different than everyone else. There's some things within Leon Slater's gimmick and character that they got to tighten up a little bit, but you can just see, this guy can be a really, really big deal for this company and for the X division and maybe further than that. Maybe he's a world champion one day. I don't think so, but it's very, very possible. The possibilities are there. So these are the kind of guys that they have got to go out there and find before somebody else does. It's much harder to find up and coming male talent these days on the indie scene. So next is the Mustafa Ali town hall meeting.
If you vote for me, all of your wildest dreams will come true.
And he is with not the good hands, but the great hands, the great hand jobs.
Hey, for another 60, I'll jerk you off in the parking garage.
And then he has his press secretary, Tasha Steele.
We've got a badass over here.
I like this. I like this a lot. So the question is out there, what about Campaign Singh, right? And I said last week, if he's going to put a cabinet together, he needs Campaign Singh. Because he was good in his role before. So I asked the question, as relevant as that is to the show, you know, hey, where's Campaign Singh? I did ask the question, and right now the plan is not to include him in this. He's not gone. He's not released, fired from the company, or anything like that. The company likes his character work, that's why I'm not understanding why he's not a part of this. Maybe they feel that it's overkill. I think he should be a part of this, but he is not going to be, or at least as of now, there's no plans for that. I think they're going to find something for him to do, but it's not this, unfortunately. So usually these town hall meetings would take place in the ring, but because Ali probably only had to show for a day of tapings like all these WWE guys do, they had to do this behind the scenes. And guess who needed screen time? Guess who needed TV time once again? Tommy Dreamer.
I'm fat. I'm fat. I'm fat.
He's fat!
I don't know why he was a part of this, but he basically pointed that I kind of tuned out when he got on the screen. I'm not going to lie to you, but I think he pointed over to the seats and said someone disagrees or someone has something to say about it, and it's Mike Santana sitting there.
That's nasty.
So this is the feud they're going to. If you remember, when they did that episode with, man, what was it? These hidden gem. I don't think it was the hidden gem episode. I think it was. It might have been back when Chris Bay got hurt, and they had to like kill some time. And I think they showed us Mike Santana versus Ali. I think that was one of the matches they had to just kind of throw in there. I remember saying to myself, "Whoa, what a big match! Why is it a hidden gem? Why was it never before seen?" And it was because it was a bullshit tag team match. The match lasted about 45 seconds. Ali got disqualified with Campaign Singh. It turned into a bullshit tag team match to get Joe Hendry out there, whatever. This is a good feud. This is going to be whenever they get around to this match, and they're making us wait for it, which is awesome. They're not just throwing it out there. It's going to absolutely steal the show. Whatever, if this is Unbreakable, if it's Rebellion, I don't know where they're trying to go with it. The crazy thing is both these guys need the win. Or I shouldn't say they need the win. Neither of them need to lose. Those are the best kind of. Let me not say that. They can be the best kind of feuds. It's the best kind of feud when you don't know who's going to win a match. I guess that's what I'm saying. I'm not a big fan of putting two guys together where none of them can take the loss, because then it kind of like feels unnecessary. Like, hey, both these guys need a little bit of a push. But when it's something like this where you don't know the match is going to be killer, they got a great storyline, and you generally don't know who's going to win, you know, I'm cool with it. So I like what they're doing. I've said it. I think Ali, when he's on screen, is one of the better parts of the show. Told you guys I'm not the biggest Mike Santana fan in the world, but I do recognize what he can do out there in the ring, and that the cool factor that he brings, and that he's natural, and all these things. And Ali's the same thing. Bit of a cool factor. It depends how you look at it, but very, very natural. He's not reciting lines. It's not fake, and it's not phony. All right. So looking forward to this quite a bit. This also had elements of the old TNA, as far as they're kind of doing the little zooms and the shaky cam. Elements of the old TNA, which I think that they need to bring back a little bit. Next up on the menu, we had King of the Block Party, Frankie Kazarian.
It's a block party. I'm not playing with y'all, bro.
And his opponent was Salami Calorie Ham, the bread machine.
Oh, you gotta give him that huck too and spit on that thing. You get me?
He's fat.
This match didn't last particularly long. I didn't think it was going to. I wasn't expecting much of a match out of this, because we know that Sami's doing other things, you know. Who's 23? Are you 23? So, of course, during this match, Mance Warner comes down.
Outlaw Mud Show garbage wrestler.
And, of course, with Steph DeLander.
Everybody's been real nice.
Well, that's because you have big jugs.
And they ultimately cost Sami Callihan the match. Now, They came down very, very seconds into this thing. I thought the match should have ended right then and there. They gave Sami Callihan a hope spot. I didn't think it was necessary. I thought the story would have better been told if, as soon as they came down to distract him, if Frankie got the win. They chose to give the bread machine a hope spot. Mance Warner got involved again. And then Frankie Kazarian puts on the chicken wing for the tap out victory. So Sami Callihan actually tapped out, actually submitted to this. So very small detail or a very small aspect of this whole feud. It's just this match, but it was a very nice touch. Mance Warner costing him the victory. I was right. I remember the ref. Oh, Sami wasn't going to wrestle at first. That's what it was. Mance Warner attacked him before the match because I remember they raised Frankie Kazarian's hand in victory before the match started, and he just had this big grin on his face, like he was so proud of himself. That's right. So he attacked him beforehand, and then he asked him if he could go. The match should have lasted like 5 seconds. That's really what I think. I just thought Sami Callihan getting any kind of offense in here was unnecessary for the story. Again, this is just a small part of the story, just a small detail within whatever the bigger picture they're doing between Mance and Sami, but I thought it was very, very well done. One thing that is very underrated in this whole thing is that they're finding creative ways to keep Frankie Kazarian strong. He is kind of sort of in feuds, kind of not, but he's winning matches. And they're not necessarily lopsided victories. You know, he's not just running through the roster. He's also not losing. But they're just finding small ways to keep him strong for his eventual cash in rather than doing the, hey, this guy's next man up. He's the money in the bank guy, but he's just going to go out there and lose a bunch of matches every night. So that's a very underrated part in all this. I've been trying to think, how are they going to use this call your shot gauntlet with Frankie? What is the end game here? Because I think it would be very unpopular for him to take it off of Joe Hendry. The easy money is that he just cashes in and takes it off Mike Santana when he's eventually the champion. You know, what I was thinking, and I hate to fantasy book too much because when you fantasy book, you're 99% wrong. But I was just trying to do my best to think outside the box. Like, what could they do to cash him in? And I was thinking to myself, what if the story is that Leon Slater ultimately beats Moose for the X Division Championship? Because I don't think they want Moose to have a rematch for the title. I don't think they want Moose to lose twice. You understand? So what if Leon Slater wins the X Division Championship and Frankie Kazarian actually cashes in on Leon Slater, wins the X Division Championship, and then uses Option C and wins a world title? Now, Option C is not the same. It is not a cash in. It wouldn't be. That's not really what I just laid out isn't necessarily logical. And it's not a cash in. But it doesn't mean that they can't do that. There's clearly no fucking rules in wrestling in the way they do shit. So there's nothing to say that he doesn't just show up in the middle of the match and say Option C. Now you're going to ask, well, what's the point of him even cashing in for the X Division Championship? It would be more to be a dick and keep the title off Leon Slater and make him have to earn it again. You know? So that could be an interesting story of Leon Slater having to win a tournament or something like that to ultimately get the title. Frankie Kazarian's kind of getting over in the process, being a dick, and then wins the world title in what could be a short run, but it's just me thinking outside the box. And again, fantasy booking is very, very dangerous because you just set yourself up for failure or set yourself up for disappointment when that's not what they ultimately do. I've been meaning to tell you guys this for a really, really long time in regards to PCO, and I'm bringing this up because of the Digital Media Championship. I've been meaning to bring this up for a while. Meltzer had run a story back at Slammiversary that TNA put it out there that if you help us sell tickets, we're going to put you in a battle royal. And I think they even posted some stats of, well, this wrestler sold the most tickets and shit like that. That isn't what happened. It made TNA sound, and I saw this because I saw someone tweet at Meltzer. Is it true that TNA told people if you help us sell tickets, we'll put you on the pre-show in a battle royal? And he just put yes, one word. That isn't what happened. What happened was PCO was obviously the head of this thing, selling the tickets and trying to put the butts in seats. He obviously is very popular in that area. He knows a lot of people. So a lot of indie wrestlers were involved in his crusade to sell. And as a thank you, PCO actually asked TNA, as a thank you, can we get them on the pre-show? It wasn't something that said, hey, come be on our show if you sell tickets. It was because they busted their ass. They moved tickets, and they said, or he asked, hey, is there something we can do to give back a little bit? So that battle royal, the jobber battle royal that they did, was a thank you to PCO for what he did, because that the thank you was also the Digital Media and the North American or whatever the hell championship. But they did that for PCO. And they also used the opportunity to scout the wrestlers, which I don't think anything came of that. I don't think they've even signed a dude since then. So I don't think they saw anything they liked in there. But that was part of it as well. And then if you remember that PCO had an entrance with, people bringing him back to life and all that shit. Those guys were also, the extras were also some of his buddies from that battle royal. So he was finding ways to get some of them paid. But it was not the Dave Meltzer story where, hey, help us sell tickets, we'll put you on the show. That is not freaking what happened. So after this, Sami Callihan, cut the music. I know you guys love my impersonations. Cut the music, 23. And he yelled some fucking bullshit. They're going to have a garbage match. That is where this freaking thing is going. I don't know exactly what Sami said. I didn't write it in my notes, probably because I didn't care a whole lot. And then we get Gia Miller.
Jesus Christ, that's perfect. Of course you're here right now.
And Gia Miller was not doing her interview segment as the second part of the show. Are they listening to BQ? What is going on here? What is going on? They cut down the highlights in the beginning. They showed a highlight before Leon Slater. Or before Leon Slater's little segment. They showed him, in the ring and with the Hardys with Moose. But I also pointed out how formulaic the show was. Banger match, Gia Miller. Banger match, Gia Miller. That's just what happens every single week. It just kicks off with a match, and then we get Gia. Now they got Gia in the middle of the show. And she's with the walking weapon, the walking taco. Oh, man, I should have been calling him that the whole time. Walking taco, Josh Alexander.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
I said it last week. I'm going to say it again. I do not miss Babyface Josh, even a little bit. The Babyface Josh promos, they're all exactly the freaking same. And I also said last week that the hole in this thing, where he's saying, this is my final match, he quit as a heel. He was being a heel. He quit. And now all of a sudden he's a babyface. Why are you still quitting? We know why he is in real life. But on the show, that doesn't make any sense to me. If you love this place so much, you're leaving on your own accord, motherfucker, stay. So that's just the hole that I found. So he's saying it's sad when it's over. I'm like, but you are leaving on your own, dude, brother. Then they showed a clip of JDC.
These are spirit fingers, and
These are gold.
Wrestling jobber Lexis King on NXT. So we had a quick clip on NXT of 2 jobbers. It shows Lexis King kicking out of JDC's finish. The down and dirty, whatever it's called, a leg drop from the top rope. What? Why is this guy kicking out of his finish? And why are you showing it to us? Leon Slater is on his phone again. And he's on his phone all episode. He's not really talking to anyone. Spoiler alert. He's on his phone all episode. JDC walks down, takes a seat, tell him he's not as good as he thinks he is. He knows the Hardys are blowing him, but he's not that good. And that he got lucky or whatever. And then they get into a shoving match. And conveniently, there is the security within 3 seconds on this phony wrestling show. Security shows up 3 seconds later. It's a pull apart. And Leon Slater starts yelling at him. He wants a garbage match. No DQ. No rules.
Lazy booking.
Anything goes. So we have one match, or one feud, Sami and Mance Warner, that is going to give us an ultimate garbage match. It is going to happen. I know they haven't announced it, but use some common sense. That is what it's going to be. And now we're getting another garbage match. These fucking matches. I've told you I don't like these matches where they have weapons. Because here's the thing. Whether you have weapons or not, the match is still going to go like 10 minutes. So wouldn't you think if you introduce weapons into a match that the match should last like 3 or 4 minutes? It's just so freaking unrealistic. It's unbelievable. And I don't even know why it's necessary. I said earlier I was going to get back to this regarding Leon Slater. So as I always point out, when the Hardys wrestle, they have to get their shit in. They're going to go out there and they're going to hit the swanton. They're going to hit the twist of fate, the whisper in the wind, all this shit. They're going to get their shit in. It does not matter if it doesn't even matter if they're not wrestling. Say they're just like fighting security guards. They're going to do all those same moves. Okay. They get their shit in. So when they announced the 6-man tag, I said, the way it needs to end is Leon Slater actually needs to pin JDC. But instead they want to further this thing with Moose. So they felt the need to get, to let Leon Slater hit his 450 swanton and then Jeff calls the regular swanton, which again looked like crap after what Leon Slater did, so that they can further that angle with Moose. I think we could have got to the same place if JDC took the pin in that match, if Jeff Hardy hit the swanton first and then kind of stepped in the ring, like stepped out of the way, I should say. Just steps out of the way and tells Leon Slater, hey man, this is all you. And then Leon Slater hits the 450 swanton and wins the match. And he would have got the comeuppance on JDC right then and there. It wouldn't have been, hey, let's wrestle again. Because I always point out the baby faces just wrestle. Not the baby faces, but the 2 wrestlers in TNA just wrestle in general. Wrestle until the baby face wins. Unless there's a title involved. That is the only time it doesn't happen. But if there's no title, they are going to wrestle until the baby face wins the feud. But you could have got the same result if the Hardys you just gave the Hardy rub and the Hardys kind of put him over in that match and let him win. I think you could have done it, and then you could have done your bullshit post-match beatdown and work towards the Moose and Jeff Hardy thing. The Moose and Jeff Hardy, if that's where they're going, people want to see that. So be a little more creative than what you're doing right now. You're just having Jeff Hardy pin him in tag team matches. Save that for your freaking jabrones, not for Jeff Hardy versus Moose. So you just could have used this opportunity to put over Leon Slater a little bit more. it was like I said when they teamed up with Masha Slamovich, when I said, yo, let Masha get the pin over Tasha Steelz at the end. No, Hardys, get your shit in, Swanton. They have to win the match. So I hope you guys follow what I was trying to say. Instead of Jeff pinning Moose, just have Jeff hit the Swanton on JDC and then step out of the way and build it up for the crowd to get excited, and then 450 wins the feud with JDC and now move on to something else. Speaking of crowd, there was like 40 people in this fucking show. That's at least what it felt like. That clearly that's not the actual number, but that is what it freaking felt like. Let's move on. Let us move on. All right, so after this we had Queen of the Rubber match, Zaya Brookside, and she took on Cora Jade.
I got a lot of discipline, but 25-year-old with them big cans and that peanut butter skin.
So this was fine. At least Cora Jade wasn't on commentary like she was last week. That was a nightmare. For anyone who ever wondered what Velvet Sky sounded like on commentary, please see Exhibit A. Anyway, I kind of pointed this out before. For a long time I always talked about the shitty ass yellow filter they put on the screen. And I'm watching these episodes, I'm like, why does it still look like there's like a hint of a yellow filter? And then I realized it was the yellow lights. When Cora Jade came out and the lights were like white, I'm talking about the lights overhead, the show looks so much better and so much clearer. Like she came out and it looked really, really good. And then her entrance was over. They go back to the yellow light, and now all of a sudden she's jaundiced. Like, I don't understand what they're going for with that. It clearly looks better if they just have regular lights going on, but it's whatever. The match was fine. Of course, Hannafin keeps calling her Jade, which I hear Jade, I'm thinking of Mia Yim, or I'm thinking of Jade Cargill. But Tom was got to call everyone by his last name, Jade. There was a lot of cooperating with each other with a lot of these moves. Cora Jade obviously won the match. We knew that was going to happen. So then after this, we have outside of a locker room, Ariana Grace.
I'm sorry that people are so jealous of me, but I can't help it that I'm popular.
So she knocks on this door, and within 2 seconds, Tessa Blanchard answers.
Oh, I don't like this. That if the Nuggets don't win this.
And then guess who walks up? I'm not going to hit the soundbite, but it's Santino. Right place at the right time. And the whole premise of this is that Tessa Blanchard is refusing to wrestle. Like, am I missing something here? Has she refused to wrestle? I know she didn't want to be in the Jobber Battle Royal, which she shouldn't have been. I get that, but they're trying to paint some picture like she's running from competition or refuses to wrestle. I feel like she made a couple comments like that, like everyone's beneath her, but I just don't understand. I don't think I didn't feel like that was the story they were telling. So now they're forcing her to wrestle next week. They didn't give her an opponent, so is it going to be a jobber? Like, are they forcing her to wrestle a jobber? Like, whatever. But at least we're going to get Tessa next week, which I like. Then in the ring, we had the Rascals.
In one word, would I use dope? Nope.
And they were cutting a serious promo. I enjoy their serious promos. And then it didn't last too long. TGT, Tank Genuine, and Tyrese come out. Let me say again, Tank Genuine and Tyrese. AKA whatever the hell their names are, and Wesley. So they come down. It's a beatdown. Because why not? And the thing was, when TGT comes down, I mean, within 2 seconds, Ace Austin's music hits.
Is this your card?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's not, is it?
No.
Meaning that Ace Austin was standing directly behind them when they were cutting their promo. Phony fucking wrestling show. Anyway, post-match angle, post-match beatdown, whatever you want to call it. It's an afterbirth. It's whatever. And then I think next week we're finally getting this 6-man. No, I don't think that's what we're getting. I think we're getting Tank and Tyrese versus the Rascals. I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing. I don't think we're getting Ace Austin and Genuine quite yet. And then they show, well, after that, I'm sorry, very, very quick promo from AJ Francis. Big boom, AJ.
Boom!
And Casey
I
Navarro.
am telling you right now, that motherfucker back there is not real.
They were talking to someone about upgrading First Class. I don't know if they mean they're bringing Rich Swann back or I don't know. We'll see what they do next week. Then they show highlights from the Knockouts Battle Royal. Are they listening to BQ? Finally, cutting up these freaking highlights and splice them and put them in the show where it's relevant. I'm sorry. Shows Savannah Evans winning the Jobber Battle Royal, and she is wrestling for the Knockouts Tag Team Championship. So that's the next thing we had up. Savannah Evans.
That's a huge bitch.
Versus the Director of Waste Management, Masha Slamovich.
How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
For the 10 people who were still in the crowd for this match, they were in store for a match that went entirely too long. I pointed this out last week. This was my concern about having Savannah Evans come in, do some jobs, and then win a number one contenders match and then wrestle. Xia Li beat her in 4 minutes in one of the worst matches in Knockouts history. Okay. She pretty much just did the job, had very little offense in that thing. And then she comes back, wins this battle royal, wrestles Masha for like 7 or 8 minutes. If Masha can't beat Savannah Evans in 3 minutes, how the hell is she going to beat Tessa Blanchard? Or even Cora Jade for that matter. Cora Jade's not that good, but as far as like her character on the show, she's a big deal. How is she supposed to wrestle these girls if she can't beat Savannah Evans? Obviously, she does beat Savannah Evans with her fucking pile driver that 2 other people on the show use. So yeah. And then we finally got the main event of this program. And it was Josh Alexander's final match in TNA versus King of the Rah Rah, Eric Young.
I think those times are like the rah rah speeches and like getting everybody up, because like nobody really get motivated off that stuff anyway.
And he's accompanied to the ring by Kid Icarus and the Wizard Walt Williams.
Well, well, well. But isn't Mr. Bullshit and Doctor I'm full of shit?
I kind of checked out during the match. I'm not the Josh Alexander fan that a lot of people are. I was like, okay, he's having his last match. Cool. Let's get it over with. He's going to win, whatever. They're going to carry him out. And I know that usually you kind of want to do the job on the way out the door. This wasn't a situation that I thought they were going to do that. I thought they were going to try to go for the feel-good Josh Alexander story. So when Eric Young actually won this thing, it very much caught me off guard. Like, that was not what I was expecting to happen. I was not expecting him. I thought the right move was for him to win. But I was like, nah, TNA's going to let Josh look good on the way out the door, like they would with Jordan Grace or something like that. But no. Eric Young wins, and that's exactly what needed to happen to further this Northern Armory thing. And then we'll get Steve Macklin back and have a nice little feud. So I'm going to end it there very, very abruptly. It is very early for me. I've got to get going. I got to get moving. I've got work here in a little bit. I got to jump in the shower. So I am your boy, BQ. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I am out. Peace.